There are machines designed to build, machines designed to heal, machines designed to destroy, and then there are machines that change what it means to exist. The Omnitrix belongs to that last category. Not only can it level cities and defeat monsters, but it removes the line between self and identity, between life as something you are born into and life as something you can choose. The universe has a strange relationship with power. Every time intelligence advances far enough, it reaches for the same question. What if I could become something else? Not imitate or control it, but truly become it. Most civilizations stop there, because the moment you remove the boundary between biology and identity, not only do you gain power, you destabilize reality itself. Somewhere in the cosmos, a being understood this too late, and that mistake ended with a watch landing on the wrist of a 10-year-old boy who had no idea that every time he pressed it, he was surviving something that should have killed him instantly. This is the story of the most dangerous idea in fiction, and why the Omnitrix sounds amazing until you really think about it. Ben never notices it the first time. Nobody would, if we're being honest. 1 second you're a kid with his hand on a dial, the next there's a flash of green light, and suddenly the world feels different, better. Your arms are too big, or too hot, or not even arms anymore. Gravity pulls differently. Sound hits harder. The ground feels wrong under your feet. From the outside, it looks like a transformation, a body twisting into something impossible, bones reshaping, muscles swelling, skin hardening, stretching, igniting, freezing, shattering. Cartoon logic tells you it's fine, that this is just how superheroes work. But if that's what were really happening, Ben would be dead, instantly. If Ben's human body actually tried to do what the Omnitrix appears to show, his nervous system would collapse before he could even think. No brain could remap itself fast enough to control new limbs. No immune system would tolerate foreign biology without turning on itself. No skeleton could expand, compress, liquefy, or ignite without total collapse. Heat alone would cook his organs in seconds. Neural overload would erase consciousness before pain even registered. If Ben Tennyson were actually transforming, there would be no hero moment. There would be a flash of green light and a corpse, which means the transformation never happens. What the Omnitrix does instead is far more extreme. When Ben presses the dial, the watch removes his biology, not rewrite it. Let me explain. You see, his human body is lifted out of normal space, locked in stasis at the quantum level, where time does not advance and entropy cannot touch him. Every cell, neuron, every fragile biological process is preserved exactly as it was. Then is not inside the alien, then is elsewhere. What appears in his place is not his body reshaped, but a construct, a living avatar built from programmable matter so advanced it blurs the line between machine and organism. It looks biological because it needs to interface with reality, but internally it's something else entirely. A self-supporting, actively stabilized form designed to survive stresses no natural body could endure. The alien is real, the strength is real, the mass is real, but the human body is not paying the price. And that single design choice explains everything.
Any ultimates generated from this moment forth will simply be reflections of you, as was always intended.
It explains why Ben doesn't die, why he doesn't lose limbs permanently, why he doesn't suffer long-term biological damage, why the Omnitrix can state, without exaggeration, that it protects the user from death. The only thing that crosses the boundary between Ben and the alien is not flesh, or blood, or DNA. It is identity. The Omnitrix doesn't upload Ben's memories or thoughts. Those are too biological. What it extracts is something deeper and more stable. The pattern that defines who Ben is beneath thought and emotion. a quantum signature of selfhood that can be projected, anchored, and reassembled. That identity is streamed into the construct through a neural interface. The watch doesn't know how his new body works. It makes the body feel like it has always worked this way. Let's put it like this. Ben doesn't have to learn how to use 4 arms any more than you had to learn how to use 2. He doesn't stop and think about where to put his feet when he becomes something massive, or how to breathe when his lungs aren't human anymore. The Omnitrix doesn't give him instructions. It edits the rules of perception so that whatever body he's in feels normal. New limbs feel intuitive. New senses feel familiar. New instincts don't take control. They get translated. It's like dropping Ben into a foreign country and instantly giving him fluency, muscle memory, and cultural context all at once. He still makes his own decisions. He still messes up. He's still himself. He just understands the body he's using as naturally as he understands his own hands. That's why Ben remains Ben. That's why he jokes in the middle of fights. Why he panics when things go wrong. Why he hesitates when a choice feels wrong. Why he grows up instead of disappearing into power. The watch never overwrites him. It preserves him. And that technology, quietly running in the background every single time the dial turns, solves the oldest problem any intelligent species has ever faced. Because if you can move consciousness out of one body and into another without damage, then death stops being a hard rule of the universe. It becomes a logistics problem. If the self isn't tied to flesh, then flesh is replaceable, repairable, optional. That's the part people miss. The Omnitrix isn't impressive because it turns a human into an alien. It's terrifying because it turns identity into something you can carry. But even that still isn't the full picture. Because the watch on Ben's wrist doesn't actually contain the aliens he becomes. If it did, it would be absurdly heavy, dangerously unstable, and outdated the moment any species changed even slightly. Instead, the Omnitrix works the same way your phone does, except instead of videos and messages, it streams biology. Somewhere far away exists Primus, a planet-sized system that doesn't just store genetic material, but understands it. Every species catalogued not as a frozen snapshot, but as a living, adaptable framework. DNA on Primus isn't treated like a file, it's treated like a program. So when Ben picks an alien, the Omnitrix doesn't use a template. It checks the species, the situation, and Ben himself, then builds the form that works best right now. That answer is built on the fly, adjusted, optimized, and compiled in real time. That's why Ben's aliens subtly improve over time, why he gains better control, why movements get smoother, why abilities feel more refined. It's optimization. The Omnitrix is watching what works, what fails, what stresses the system, and what keeps Ben alive. It's learning, which means the watch isn't just a tool, it's a student, and students need rules. Kevin didn't interface with alien biology through a translator or interpreter. He absorbed it directly. No safety layer separating who he was from what he touched. Imagine plugging 10 different operating systems directly into your brain at the same time and telling them all to run at once. Kevin's body tried to obey everything, and it shattered him. The Omnitrix never allows that to happen. Every form Ben uses is isolated, sealed off, hard-walled from his true biology. Nothing crosses the line without permission. The watch doesn't just protect Ben from alien DNA, it protects alien DNA from Ben. And when that separation is threatened, the system shuts itself down instantly, because uncontrolled access isn't power, it's collapse. That's also why the limits people joke about, the timeout, aren't flaws, their mercy. The Omnitrix doesn't run out of energy. It pulls power from sources so fundamental they barely count as fuel. What it runs out of is tolerance. Heat buildup, quantum instability, stress on containment fields holding impossible things together. The timeout isn't punishment, it's the watch saying, if we keep going, someone doesn't walk away from this. Sometimes that someone is Ben. Sometimes it's the space around him. Master control disables those limits, which is why it isn't freedom. It's trust, given without restraint. And the larger the form Ben uses, the more obvious the truth becomes. Creatures that should collapse under their own mass don't, because they aren't built like natural organisms. They're mostly empty space, internally supported by active stabilization and exotic matter structures. They're not muscles pulling on bones, they're equations holding shapes together. Their bodies are less biology and more math, solutions to physics problems that reality normally refuses to solve. That's why their bones aren't really bones, why their muscles aren't really muscles, why their skin behaves like armor one second and fabric the next. They're walking loopholes. And that's why the beings who truly understand the Omnitrix fear it. Even the ultimate forms aren't upgrades in the way people think. They're simulations. The Omnitrix asking a single, brutal question and answering it without sentiment. If this species were forced through extinction-level combat for 1 million years, what would survive? And then it builds that answer. Proof that evolution isn't sacred, that nature isn't perfect, that survival can be optimized, accelerated, redesigned. Azimuth never wanted that lesson learned. He didn't build the Omnitrix to dominate. He built it to end war by making understanding unavoidable, to force empathy not through words, but through experience. So Azimuth did something reckless. He trusted a child. Ben wasn't chosen because he was strong. He was chosen because he could still change. The Omnitrix doesn't test combat skill. It tests character. It unlocks slowly, cautiously, as trust is earned. And that's why it never fully opens. Because godhood without empathy isn't evolution, it's extinction. In the end, the Omnitrix isn't a watch. It isn't a weapon. It isn't a database. It's a machine that turns difference into experience. A device that forces you to live inside another body, another perspective, another way of being. And that is the most dangerous idea imaginable. Because once you can become the other, hatred has nowhere to hide. Ben Tennyson doesn't save the universe because he's the strongest thing in it. He saves it because the Omnitrix keeps putting him in someone else's shoes, until understanding becomes instinct. And every single time the dial turns, the watch gives him the same gift. Not power, but the chance to choose who he becomes next. And that's basically how the Omnitrix works. Not necessarily a transformation, but a system that makes transformations survivable. It's easy to think that the watch just turns Ben into aliens, but what it actually does is keep him alive while something else exists in his place. Superman works the opposite way. There's no system separating him from his power. His body is the system, and understanding how that works is a shocking story for another time.